All right, good morning. Welcome back to America's Real Estate Show. We are so excited and grateful that you have decided to share your time with us today. We are here every single Friday at 11 a.m. Central. If you are new, welcome. I'm Ashley, your host, and we bring top producers from across the nation right here to our studio in Chicago every single week so that they can share their secrets to success with you to help you accelerate your success. And today we have a top producer who is joining us all the way from Dallas, Texas. So if you would give a huge round of applause to Alondra Duran.
Hi. How's everyone doing today? Thank you for having me.
Yes, we are so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for making the journey.
Yes.
And we have a lot to cover today.
I'm ready.
You are ready. You are ready. So we're going to just jump right into it.
Okay.
And I would love to start kind of going way back to when you were about 8 years old.
Yes.
And you're living in Fort Worth, Texas at this time.
Yes.
And your home was actually set on fire.
Yes.
And you were the last person in your family to be rescued out of that home.
Yes.
And I know this had to have just made a massive impact on who you are and your family. So I'm curious how that experience really shaped who you are today. And I know it really ends up playing a role later in your life when you became a real estate professional. So let's visit about that a little bit.
Yeah, so that situation taught me a lot of things. One thing is my mom came to the United States with nothing, not even knowing how to speak English, and she worked very hard to buy that home. And just seeing it go up to flames and it being gone from one day to another taught me that we need to be grateful for the things that we have and not to take something like your home, the water that you drink, the roof that you have over for your head for granted. And I remember one specific moment after all of that happened, going back to the house after we had been out of the hospital and just hearing my mom screams. Hearing her screams that everything that she had worked for was gone. And I didn't, of course, at that point I was little, I didn't know it then, but now whenever I started getting into the journey of wanting to be a real estate agent, I truly realized what home ownership can mean to someone. You know, buying a home means more to others than to some. And whenever I meet someone that tells me, Ali, I don't think that this could be possible, or this is how much it means to me, it just reminds me of those cries that my mom had whenever she's seen something that she worked so hard for just diminish. And now that I'm in a position where I can help others accomplish that dream of home ownership, you know, it's just crazy how the world makes a full circle sometimes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's fast forward in your journey just a little bit. And I know that you shared with me that home wasn't always a happy place for you. It wasn't always a safe place for you, which again really ends up making a big impact in your life in the way that you work with your clients today.
Yes.
You and your husband, Eric, who's here with us today. Yay, Eric. Shout out to Eric. You all met very young, you know, at about 14 years old. And your escape was youth groups and going to worship concerts.
Yes.
And you did meet when you were 14. Many years later, you know, probably about a decade later, you all got married.
Yes.
And you became pregnant at a pretty young age, you know, maybe around 20.
Yeah, I was 20.
And two very powerful things happen. You find out that you're having a baby. And I want to read this specifically because I think it's so important because it was a moment in your life that really put you on a different path.
Yeah.
And you shared with me that one of your family members had said to you that you're never going to be anything.
Yeah.
You're never going to be anything.
Yes.
So I just want to take us back to that moment and have you share with everybody what was that like for you?
Yeah.
And I know it triggered something deep inside of you that really put you on a totally different path in your life.
Yes, because like I mentioned, seeing my mom come from Mexico to the United States with nothing, she really instilled in me that I needed to go to school, I needed to get a good job, and that's how I was going to make it here. So before I found out that I was pregnant, I was actually going to school, and I finished on my prerequisites, and I was getting ready to apply for nursing school, and that's when I found out I was pregnant. So whenever I found out I was pregnant, I actually didn't end up signing up for nursing school because I also got really sick. And I was on bed rest for a good 3 to 4 months. I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink water. So during that time, and once my family started finding out that I was pregnant, I did hear that there was a conversation that was had. Don't be like her. Look what happened to her. She couldn't go to school. She's pregnant. She's going to be nothing in life. And me hearing that kind of reminded me, although at that point I didn't know I was going to pursue real estate, but it just taught me, you know what, I am not going to be part of the statistic. I am not going to be the part that gets pregnant and doesn't do anything. So actually during my pregnancy, I went to medical assisting school. I went to medical assisting school just I'm like, you know what, let me get my foot in the door, and then later I can see, go to be a nurse. But it really did ignite a fire in me that I knew that I needed, because I was able to transcend that comment, not only to be able to accomplish and get a good job in the medical field, but also to use that push whenever people were telling me that I wasn't going to amount to anything in real estate either.
Right. Absolutely. And I mean, you turned that pain, into purpose for sure. And so let's fast forward a little bit. You and Eric are married, you have your baby, and life just lifes, like I like to say, right? Life just life sometimes.
Yes.
And Eric finds himself without a job. He loses his job, and so now you all are living on your one income as a medical assistant, and you literally start having garage sales, and you're selling kind of everything that you can to pay bills, and Eric even ends up selling his car to help make rent payments.
Yes.
So take us back to that time and what was going on and how you all really made that through, because I mean that could have broken a lot of couples, right?
Yes, it did. It was very hard, and I believe God put me in that position to teach me what my why and my purpose was going to be before leading me into the path of real estate. So I remember even digging through the couch sometimes to see if we can find change to go and take it and be able to buy food, and I just remember my husband Eric coming to me, goes, hey, I'm going to do real estate. And I was like, no, you're not. You're going to get up and you're going to get a job. Like, what is real estate? I came from very humble beginnings, so I really didn't know what it was to be an entrepreneur, to start your own business. I didn't even know what real estate was at that time, if I'm being honest. So whenever he was having conversations with me that he wanted to get into real estate, I was like, no, you need to get up and get a job. Like, I need help, right? And he would always just come back and tell me, well, do you not have faith? If you want to shut anybody up, just tell them, well, do you not have faith? And then, they won't know how to respond to that. Because that's exactly what he did to me. Every time he wanted me to be quiet, I'm like, well, do you not have faith? I'm like, no, you're right. No, you're right. So that moment, now that I'm thinking about it, especially speaking with you, kind of made me reflect. Going back, I was like, God, I'm so grateful for that season, because whenever people ask me what my why is, that's what I think about. I think about that I'm never going to put myself in a position where my son has to go without, to where we don't know if we're going to be able to pay the bills or be able just to buy groceries the next day. So it was a big turning point in our life at that moment. And so I guess at this time, this saying isn't true that, the wife is always right, because I thought that it wasn't going to work. But granted, my husband, I was like, you know what? Okay, just go do your thing. I'm going to let you do your thing. We're going to figure it out anyways.
Yes. And then one day he comes home with a $5,000 check, right? And you're like,
And I'm like, maybe I should look into this real estate stuff a little bit more. So when he did that, his business was starting to snowball. I was happy. I was still doing what I was wanting to do in the medical assisting world. And then he comes home one day again. Hey, I need you to get your real estate license. I was like, I already told you that's not what I wanted to do. Like, you're the one that's supposed to make me a stay-at-home mom, sir. Go,
Right.
Go do your thing. He goes, no, I need you to get your real estate license, because says, I need access to the MLS. I need you to run numbers for me because the agents that I'm working with right now are not getting me these CMAs back quick enough, and I'm not able to lock in the deals with the sellers. So I'm like, okay, that sounds fair. And plus, because he knows that I'm book smart, a little backstory, I filled out all his essays to get into his aircraft mechanic school. So that's how I was able to get accepted. So he knew if I try to do it, I'm not going to pass my test. But if you do it, you'll pass it. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll do that. So I went to school. Again, I had to sacrifice a lot of perseverance. I would leave my house at 6 in the morning. I wouldn't get home until 11 because I worked during the day and went to school at night. And that was for 6 weeks straight without seeing my son, only on the weekends. So again, it taught me to not be stuck in that rat race of missing out on my child, because going to work and going to school together and just trying to figure it out was a hindsight of what I knew I didn't want to do for the rest of my life. So I got my real estate license. I go here, I got it. There's your access to your MLS. Let me know if you need me to run numbers. I'll do it. And let me go back to do what I'm doing, right? Working as an MA. And then coworkers, of course, knew that I was a real estate agent because that's all they see me do was study. So they started asking me questions. Hey, can you help me with this? Or I want to buy a home or so-and-so. And I didn't know how to answer the questions because I didn't get training to be a realtor. I just passed my test, hang it up somewhere, and then went about on my day. And then that's whenever my husband and God slowly started putting into me, what if you give it a try? You know, what if I take the risk and I do it? And I am so grateful that I did, because I remember always having those thoughts of doubt, and God always reminding me, this is what you need to be doing. And it just so happens to fall into this timeline where I put in my 2 weeks notice, and I didn't even realize that on the very last day of my job working as a medical assistant was the day of my very first closing. And I just remember taking off my scrubs and changing into my closing outfit. And now I think about it as like, God literally let me shed a layer. He put on my new armor, and I never looked back since.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. I love that.
Yes.
Now, when you got your real estate license, COVID literally hit
Yes.
about 2 months into you becoming a realtor.
Yeah.
And you decided, okay, social media is going to be how I get business. And you shared with me, which I tell you, no one would believe, because you have an amazing following now, and you're just incredible on social media. But you shared with me that you really did not know anything about social media.
I look at my content back then, I'm like, ew, you know?
Right.
And actually, that my very first closing ended up being my very first listing, and then my highest priced home sold. So whenever they contact me on a Facebook post. Someone commented on me. I remember sitting outside on the driveway. The kids were running around. We had burgers on the grill, and someone commented on my post. I'm like, oh, keep in mind, I had no clients at this time, none whatsoever. All I was doing is just posting. Whatever I could, I posted. And I remember getting a comment, and I quickly replied, set them up for a consultation, and sure enough, we got them pre-approved. They bought their first home. A year later, they called me again. Hey, we want to sell. We want to buy another home. So it was my first listing ever as well, and then my highest priced home sold at that time too. So I got 3 in 1 off from one Facebook post.
I love it. And you did not know what you were doing.
I did not know. All I knew is that I needed to post, right? Because I couldn't go out and get business cards. People didn't even want to shake your hand or be 6 feet away from you, right? So it's just like, when I think about it, I was like, God really had a hand on my life, because okay, I'm gonna put you through tough situations, so you know exactly what's gonna work for you once you start. Because at that time, COVID had hit. We couldn't go out. At that time, virtual tours were a thing because clients didn't want to go out and see homes, not knowing that. And now that's how I run such a successful business, is by posting on social media.
Right. So let's dive into that, because that's the essence of what we're going to be teaching and training agents today. Is you have a structure, a methodology around social media, and you really fuse that with an amazing buyer consultation process.
Yes.
So let's start with the social media piece. Now you are a pro at it.
Yes.
So we can help accelerate the success. I always like to say that for all the agents that are watching and listening today, so that they don't have to take a year or years to figure out what really works on social media. What would you say are your top 2 videos that always do the best for you outside of your closing videos? Because we'll leave kind of a special segment just to talk about your closing videos.
It's going to be my lifestyle videos and me shopping for my clients' closing gifts as well, and explaining, I'll add a third one in there, and also explaining the home buying process in a different way. I like to share a lot of information that other agents don't share, right? And we always can assume that the public knows what an interest rate is and how that affects their monthly payment. We can't assume that they know that they have to get additional inspections outside of their general home inspection, right? And I know at the beginning, I wouldn't post things like that, because once I would learn them, I'm like, oh man, my past clients are gonna know that I didn't do the right thing to them before. But now that I speak about it a lot, I'm not only educating the public, but it's also helped me educate other agents and even gain referral business from agents that are not here in the DFW area, that they're gonna know, hey, that girl isn't just good at posting pretty houses or posting her day in the life. She actually knows what she's talking about. And so posting informative videos, posting kind of behind the scenes, and also posting me shopping for my clients' closing gifts and getting them a little bit of insight of who I am always gets more views than house tours for some reason.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into the educational types of videos, because I know you're very passionate about that, and you spend a lot of time creating videos that are going to educate your future clients. So maybe what's one of your top 1 or 2 favorite types of educational videos?
So I like to do more of what happens after closing, and not so much like homestead exemptions. For example, recently I've been seeing, it's been a big talk getting into real estate and investing, house hacking, buy one home and then buy another. But nobody's posting videos to educate buyers what they actually need to do to be able to buy their second home. They're just kind of checking the first one off and then call me when you're ready. So I've had a lot of clients recently that call me, hey, I want to buy a home and then I want to buy a next one. So I'm a little bit more proactive. I'm like, okay, well, what type of loan are you going to use to buy this home? Because if you qualify for FHA now, we're going to have to prep you after you close on your home to qualify for a conventional loan. So I kind of still work with them after we close on their home if they're already telling me what their game plan is. So whenever I have clients that come and meet with me, of course I know they want to meet with me because they want to buy their home, but I need to know more. What does your 3 to 5 year game plan look like? Some people are not going to know, but you're going to run into people who have, hey, this is what I want to do, this is my goal, and this is the plans that I have in the future. And if I can help them plan for that outside of just helping them buy their home, that's also what's helped me create a referral-based business.
Beautiful. Okay, so now let's move into your closing videos, because these by far do the best for you, and they are incredibly magical. So let's give our audience an idea, and certainly we're going to direct everyone to check out your Instagram page because they can see all the videos there. But if you would just kind of describe for us what your closing videos are all about, how you make them special, what you really kind of feel the Alondra magic is behind these closing videos, and why they do so well.
So for me, whenever I first meet a client and I have them tell me what their why is, I like to capture their why on video, that true raw moment. I sometimes will set up a camera. Like I've had clients who surprise their daughters with their very first homes, their families. I've had a client propose to his now wife. She picked the home, didn't even know he was gonna buy it. He bought the home, which is kind of risky. He bought the home without telling her, because what if she said, yeah, I like it, but what if it wasn't her favorite one? But good thing it happened to be her favorite one. She thought we were just gonna go see the house for a showing, and no, he handed her the keys and they got down on one knee and proposed. And that was a very old video. I need to bring that one back up. But I always like to get my clients' feedback on what they want for their closing videos versus just telling them this is what we're going to do. A big piece that helps me too is I let them pick their own closing songs. So if you guys do go through my social media, you see a crazy variety of songs, it's because my clients pick the music. And I feel like that helps because we all have one song that plays that takes us back to a special moment. You know, for me, it was our drives back to Mexico, playing a certain song. If I hear it now, it's just like the nostalgia. And that's what I wanted to create for my clients and why I let them pick their closing videos, because every time that they hear that song, they're going to be reminded of their hard work and one of their biggest accomplishments that they accomplished in life.
I love that. So do you talk to me a little bit about, it sounds like you kind of do a pre-prep for the closing video.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about that. You know, when are you actually having that conversation? How are you kind of having the strategy meeting with them?
It is
so lay it out for us.
It is so funny when my clients come to my bar consultations, they already know about their closing video. I remember sitting down with some clients and they're like, we joke all the time because we're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna go meet here, and before you know it, we're gonna be doing our video, holding the keys. So it's so neat to see because they already know that that's what I do. So sometimes whenever my clients come to consultations, they already tell me, hey, this is what I want to do for a video, this is who I want to be in, or if not, we discuss it at our final walkthrough. But usually whenever they come and they meet with me, they already know, hey, this is what I'm going to do. So sometimes throughout the process, they'll like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to film this. Can we do it this way? Or I need to make sure so-and-so is going to be here for the video. But we'll either do the prep at the consultation if they're already ready for it, or we'll prep them during the final walkthrough and I practice with them, and then we'll actually film it the day after closing.
Oh, that is so fun. I mean, because obviously they have been following you on social media, so they've already been exposed to all of the different closing videos. So I love that you pointed out that by the time that they have contacted you, they know that they're going to be working with you, and they already have in their mind, I'm buying a home
with
and
her.
and I am ready for my closing video. Like they already have the Hollywood scenes planned. That is so fun.
Yes, and it works because recently I had a mom call me. She goes, hey, I know that you do videos for your clients. Can I be included on filming a video of us prepping their closing gift? Which was the first time that has ever happened, and it really just showed me that people do get to know you by the things that you do for your clients because it becomes part of your brand. So whenever she called me, I'm like, yes, absolutely, and we met up, and it was a whole special moment, and we surprised them with that video of us getting together without them knowing and setting everything up for them.
Oh, that is so fun.
Yes.
And you have to tell us about one of my favorites, where the father surprised his little girl. And so I want everyone to go check that out on her Instagram page. We'll talk about that later. But can you describe for us what that was like?
Yes, so she was younger. I believe she is 10. He's a single dad, had a very good job, worked really hard. We came from the same neighborhood, so very humble beginnings as well. So buying a home for him meant everything, especially buying a home for himself because his parents have never bought a home. He was literally going to be the first one to say, hey, I was able to buy my first home. So as we were going through the process, I wasn't aware that his daughter didn't know. I assumed she did. And then she's like, no, she doesn't know. I was like, you want to surprise her and do a whole video? He's all like, yes, we want to surprise her. So, and I know with younger kids, they're a little bit shy when they're in front of people that they don't know. So for that special closing video, we made sure that there was no cars in the driveway. I parked my car far. And I remember just setting up the camera and hiding in a room and just letting them have that moment and soaking it all in. And it was just so pretty to see because you can hear her say, what is this? She goes, this is our house, Mama. She's like, what? This is ours. And then the tears just started rolling, and that's just like, I constantly get reminded so much, like, this is why, and this is why I have clients that come back to me repeatedly because, we can't lose sight of the why. Sometimes we get so wound up in the practicals. I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to make sure I'm hitting these numbers, but don't forget why. Why do you want to do those things? And, sometimes we get just so busy in the motion of things, and that moment really made me, reminded me of my why.
I'm sure every closing video that you do reminds you, right?
Oh, yeah,
and
absolutely.
Each person has a different story, and you're really connecting at that heart emotional level.
Yes.
And you're doing all of these yourself.
Myself and my husband. My husband flies the drone for me, but it's because I guess, picky. I like to make sure that I'm capturing, because not everybody's gonna have an eye for it, right? So I need to make sure, I need to find somebody. So if you film good content, hit me up, because I'm looking for a video guy, but as of now. And the reason why I like to be there to film them too is because they have so much fun. You don't know how many times it's the first time someone's popping a champagne bottle, and it's like the most funniest thing to see them, like teaching them how to do it, or popping the confetti poppers. And every time my client said, oh my gosh, that was the most fun we've had in a minute. So not only is it, yes, I'm recording a special moment, they're having fun in the moment as well.
Absolutely. Well, and you're creating these memorable moments
Yes.
that are really being cemented again through that heart connection.
Yes.
So now let's move into talking about how you are turning these DMs into deals.
Yes.
Because you are not doing cold calls, you are not running paid ads. I mean, truly all of your business is funneling through your social media.
Yes.
And there is an art and a science. So we just kind of talked a little bit about the art of the types of videos that you are producing and posting. And I know that you do stories as well.
Yes.
And so now let's talk maybe a little bit about the science of how you're blending these two things together and you're turning these DMs into what then becomes buyer consultations.
Yeah, so I know in the beginning of my career, I had a lot of people always message me and they would ask me, hey, I want to buy a home, what do I need to do? And then I give them this full long paragraph hoping that they're going to write me back and come back, but I just filled them with everything that they wanted to know, and then I wouldn't get responses. And then, or I would post informational videos, but I would give too much of the information all at once, to where they would just contact me for a simple question, and then I would give them their answer and they would run away. So I'm like, okay, how can I provide them with enough value for them to want to schedule and actually meet with me, right? So I started overcoming objections. Whenever people would write me, hey, what are the requirements to be able to buy a home? I would respond, well, hey, these are the requirements. Do you know where you stand? And then they would tell me, I'm like, you know what, well, your credit is actually where it needs to be. Do you want to go ahead and set up a consultation? Well, it's because we're still paying off debt. And then that's whenever I get another proposition value. Well, do you know what debts you need to pay off and which ones are going to be beneficial for you to pay off, so that way your credit score can actually increase versus decrease? Because people don't know that sometimes closing accounts and paying your debts off to zero can cause your credit score to decrease versus increase. So the public assumes, which just like I assumed before I knew about real estate, was that it's better to have no debt, pay your debts off all to a zero, and my credit score is going to be clean. But unfortunately, we have to be in debt to have a good credit score. Right? So, and little things, just little nuggets, little golden nuggets that I would give my clients, that were like, oh, I didn't know that. Maybe I do need to go meet her so I can actually make sure that I'm paying off the things that I need to pay off. And as I started noticing that I was working, I started implementing on letting people know, hey, I'm not the agent who wants to sell you a home right now. Just because you meet with me now doesn't mean that you need to buy a home now, but at least I'm going to be able to leave you with a game plan tailored specifically towards you. So while you're giving yourself enough time to where you feel like you're going to be ready, whenever you are ready, you have all your ducks in a row.
So talk to us a little bit about the types of messages that you receive. How do they typically start?
So they just start like, hey, I've been watching you on social media for a while, and I always knew I wanted you to be our realtor. We're ready for a buyer consultation. So I know my social media has already helped me create that trust. They already see my clients' testimonies, because I post, everything that my clients say about me, or if I get a thank you message, I post it so the public can see, hey, she really cares about her clients, and she's actually doing what she says she's preaching to do, right? So a lot of the time I get a mixture of messages of people knowing that I'm already their agent and they want to work with me, or hey, I want to buy a home, but this is my situation, and they kind of like interview me. How is she going to help me? And typically those are the clients that have already spoke with other lenders. But the other lenders, or maybe their other realtors, didn't give them a game plan. They just told me, hey, you need to work on this, call me back whenever you're ready. So whenever I've already learned to decipher by different messages that I'm receiving, if they've already if they're coming from somewhere else, if they're really brand new, or if they already know that they're going to want me to be their agent. So usually a lot of them, hey, I'm in this type of situation, my credit is this, how can you help? And then once I give them little golden nuggets on how they can help, then they already know, okay, it's going to be worth actually sitting down with her and meeting in person.
And so when you're overcoming the objections, because you're always prepared for that,
Yeah.
right? You always know, okay, this is awesome that I received the message, but now I'm going to have to shift gears. They're probably going to have some type of objection for me. And then how do you then work through, okay, I did this. How do you work in asking them for the buyer consult?
Yeah, so then once they let me know what their worries are, and once I overcome those objections, and that's whenever I loop them on, hey, but I really don't know if that's gonna be the for sure answer. Let's go ahead and sit down, have a meeting. I can actually look at everything, give you a dissected game plan. You take that, you keep it in your back pocket, and whenever you're ready, we'll meet for buyer consultation too, and we'll actually break down and go everything so I can make sure that I'm giving you the correct game plan. Because it's all gonna be dependable. Like some people can write me, hey, I make this much a year and have this much of a credit score. How much can I qualify for? I'm like, well, it's going to be dependent on your debts versus your income. So let's go ahead and have a meeting. We'll break down all the numbers for you. Nothing is set in stone until you're ready to move forward, but at least you know if there's anything that you need to work on, or you could potentially just be ready to go.
Right. And so how do you then kind of take this
So then
to a phone call?
Yes, so I do two ways. If I'm available, usually I do it just straight through DM, and they'll tell me, okay, great, I'm available this day. Then that's whenever I grab their phone number, their email. I'll text them, hey, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Here's my address. Here's a list of documents that you need to bring. I'll see you here this day. Or if I know that I can't really write them back, then I do get them on a phone call, and I kind of give them a feel for who I am as well, and I go over the process. And I never get any pushback on having them to set a consultation with me.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to look at my notes here and repeat something that you said to me, because I thought this was so powerful, and you actually said it in one of the videos that you posted about this session today.
Yes.
You were doing a buyer consult one way, you weren't having success.
No.
And so, right, your brain starts spinning and you're like, okay, I need to change some things up here.
Yes.
And one of the biggest things that you said to me was that you were tired of clients ghosting you and cheating,
on
right?
you, yes.
And cheating on you with other agents.
Yeah.
So let's walk through some of those very specific parts of your buyer consultation that you ended up changing. And let's just give all of the agents watching and listening today just kind of a flavor for how you go about your buyer consult.
Yes. So biggest thing, don't just send your clients the link to their lender's application to fill out on their own. I had the worst conversion rate when I was doing that. I would get everybody that was excited to work with me. Okay, great. I'm going to send you the link to my lender's application, and then we'll talk after they process your application. Whenever someone, especially anybody, if you applied for a loan, you applied for a credit card, you're excited to do it in the moment, but the moment it comes down to click submit, that's where like, should I do it? And that's the same fear that I was noticing that clients were having. I would check in, hey, did you submit the loan application? No, sorry, we're busy, or sorry, life happened, or sorry, I never heard back from them. So I'm like, how can I actually make sure that we're getting these things done? So that's whenever I switched to, instead of having consultations over the phone or sending them the link to my lender's application, to actually sitting down with them in person and helping them fill out the application, gathering all their documents, and that really is what helped me, bridge that gap from having clients that would call me, and then I would send them the link and I would never hear back from them, or they would submit the link, they would get pre-approved, and then they would cheat on me with another realtor. And that essentially happened too, because the public doesn't know that there's two different types of real estate agents. They don't know that we can show them any home that's for sale on the market and that we're working directly for them. Because you don't know the amount of times as I've had these consultations, and when I'm explaining that part of the process and I tell them, I can show you any home that's available and on the market, even if I'm the one not directly selling it, 9 times out of 10, they turn around and they look at the partners like a relief, like, oh, okay, she's, I don't have to go to someone else if she doesn't have the house that I like, right? And whenever I started noticing that, something so simple that we would assume that the public knows, it showed me, I need to break down the process more on just the type of credit score they need and the type of debt they need. I need to start setting expectations. Right. I need to let them know, this is my role as your agent, this is a lender's officer roles, because honestly, some people don't even know the difference between a realtor and a loan officer. They think we do the same thing. So if the loan officer doesn't approve them for whatever reason and we don't explain to them why, they go to another realtor hoping a different outcome, right?
Yes. And I know we spent a lot of time talking about how important that relationship is with your lender. So I really want to take a minute to walk through, because your lender does some very specific and special things for you. And again, I just want to refer to my notes, because I loved this analogy that you shared with me that you give to your clients. And you said, think of your lender like an attorney prepping your case and the underwriter as the judge. And I thought that was so beautiful. So let's just walk through a couple of things that your lender does for you on the behalf of your clients that helps you get to closing.
So what I love about her is that she basically semi underwrites the file before she sends me a pre-approval. So she's not going to be the lender that's going to give me a pre-approval in 24 hours unless the verification of employment is in and then the buyer provided all the documents. But that's something that I also explain to my clients, and I set the expectation. Hey, this is how my lender works. This is everything that we need to be able to issue pre-approval. I explained the difference between just having pay stubs and a verification of employment, and how if they look different, there's going to be a difference in numbers and how much they could qualify for. I'll explain how some lenders don't order a verification of employment until they're already under contract, and then I explain why that's a protection for them versus the public thinking, oh, this lender hasn't got back to me in 3 days and Rocket Mortgage qualified me for XYZ in like 2 hours. So I explained, I was like, the reason that we're doing this is due diligence is for your behalf. So that's why it's so crucial that you work with the lender that is going to correctly verify all of your client's information. Look at every scenario possible. Make sure that you have the verification of employment ordered, that you make sure that they gathered all of their 2-year work history if they've had different jobs within the last 2 years. Like, once you become truly knowledgeable of how lending works, you as an agent, you're going to be able to educate your client so that for any reason, if there's a hiccup, they understand that it's just part of the process.
Okay, so once you have gone through all of this and it is time for that house shopping moment, talk to us about the approach that you have taken, because you do some specific things that that really have shortened the gap between when you start touring homes to you have found the home and you start making an offer.
So I actually break up my buyer consultations in two with my first-time home buyers, sometimes even if they're second home buyers, because I've had clients that tell me I bought 3 homes and then they start asking me questions that first-time home buyers are normally asked. So now I just kind of, hey, this is how I work, and I explain to them this is a reason why I do it, and I promise it's going to make the home buying process as smoothly as possible. Why? First meeting, I set expectations. I help them submit the loan application. I send all the documents over to the lender, and I go over a brief overview of what the home buying process looks like. I break up what their monthly payment means, and I give them an overview of how the market looks. And the reason that I give them an overview of how the market looks, because that's going to determine the type of buyer that they're potentially going to be, right? I have to set the expectations. If they already know that the seller has to cover all of their closing costs because they didn't save enough money, then I have to set the expectations that we have to look at homes that potentially have been on the market a little bit longer, and then I explain why. I put them in the seller's shoes. Like, hey, let's say you called me to sell your home and we've only been on the market for 2 days and we receive an offer that's wanting all their closing costs covered, but then we have another offer that offered over than what you're asking. Which offer are you going to pick? Of course, it's not always going to be that scenario, but it helps them understand, I get it. And it's going to help them understand, oh, well, this realtor just doesn't want to show me homes that are fresh on the market. I'm like, I can go show you, but then I don't want you to fall in love with something that we're not going to be able to win, right? Second meeting is whenever they are already pre-approved. So I already had discussed with lender what their monthly payment's going to be, how much money they need for closing, the type of loan that they qualified for, if there's any debts that they need to pay off. So I already have that information. So by the time I meet with them the second time, buyers need to hear this information more than once. They need to know what their monthly payment is more than once. They need to know what their interest rate is, what type of program they're in. So during meeting 2, I break down all of their finances. I ensure that they're okay with the monthly payment that they got qualified for, because if they're not, then we'll start figuring out what their monthly payment needs to be. So that way I know I'm showing them homes that are going to keep them in that monthly payment. We go over their wish list. I set the expectations. They tell me what they do want, what they don't want. So really, it's helped me cut out showing my clients 30 homes, because by the time I meet with them for the second time, I already know exactly what they want, and I set the expectation for what they can buy. And if they know that they're not seeing anything that they can like, then they already know it's because, you know what, we're probably not being too reasonable with where we want to be monthly payment wise. We do have room to bump up that thing, to bump up our budget. As soon as they bump up their budget, we go under contract.
And then you show a couple of homes.
Yes.
But you do a lot of your own research,
Yes.
right? Even though you may set them up on, some type of automatic drip, right?
Yeah.
Based on the criteria that they've given you. You are doing your own homework. You show them a couple of homes, and then talk to us a little bit about, you have them share with you the things that they are really liking, what they're disliking, and then you typically end up finding their perfect home, but you kind of keep it in your back pocket for a little bit. So talk to us about that, because again, I think that's very strategic in the way that you do this.
So whenever I meet with them with the second time, everything is more verbal. This is what I want, the bedrooms, the square footage, the area. So then that same day, I have them go home, send me 3 homes that you like. And once they send me those 3 homes, I'm going to be able to see, okay, this is the style that they're liking, this is what they're looking for, because they'll tell you, oh, I'm okay if it needs a little bit of work. And then the first 3 homes I receive, they're completely renovated. So then that allows me to see, okay, I need to switch the expectation here, have a conversation. Hey, this is how we're going to tailor the search after all. Because if I just go show them 10 homes that all need updates or cosmetic updates, they're not going to like them, because their first 3 homes that they sent me were completely renovated. So I know they're tailored more for that visual. So when it teaches me exactly what to look for and what they like and what they don't like. After that, we go and we actually see those 3 homes. Then I'll do my own search and I'll dig through the MLS to see. And then once I find the one, then I save that one for our second set of showings, because for some reason, if you take them to the first home that you know checks all the boxes, they're going to say no to it just because it's the first home that they went to go see, right? It's just the way the human brain works. What if I'm missing out on something else? What if something else hits the market tomorrow that I'm going to like more than this one, because we started off seeing the first one that had all the bells and whistles?
Okay, so now you've gone through the house shopping process, and we've picked the home, and you do something very special when it comes to the inspections.
Yes.
So talk to us, just kind of run us through a little bit about what you feel you do differently than perhaps other agents do.
Yeah, so I am very thorough when it comes to doing my home inspections with my clients, and I took feedback from the type of questions and issues that have arisen that my clients would contact me with after they moved into homes. And essentially those things happened because I wasn't performing the right inspections. Nobody taught me that, a general home inspector only does this and they don't have liability for XYZ. So I was able to take a lot of that experience, and now I always highly, highly recommend for my clients to get a general home inspection and a plumbing inspection, no matter what, right? Because an inspector, they'll check the basics. If your shower head is leaking, if your toilets aren't flushing, but nobody knows what the full integrity of the home is under their house. You don't know how many times there was no leaks, the water ran through the house just how it needed to, but the main sewer line was broken. And that's like a $6,000 to potentially $12,000 job, right? And especially for a first-time home buyer, yeah, the toilets flushed, the faucets weren't leaking, the water was running through, but as soon as you connect the washer and dryer and you have water flowing through the house from different directions, that's when the issues start arising. So that taught me, okay, let's be a little bit more due diligent and perform these additional inspections up front, just so that we know that whenever you move into your home, you're not going to run into any surprises. And so many of my clients appreciate that, especially the clients that are in the construction field. I've noticed, or they're different trades, when they're at first they come in because the wives the wives always love me. They always come like, I want to use her, and the husbands usually come back and they say like this, or like, let's see if this little pretty girl knows what she's doing. And the moment I start breaking down, especially when I get into the inspection period and their diligence period, I see them lean in because they're like, okay, she knows what she's talking about. And that's really helped me just be very diligent on. And honestly, I've told my clients to walk away from home sometimes because of how much work the house is needed, which they appreciate. Because us as realtors, we have this such back stigma. Oh, they just want to sell. They just want to sell. They just want to sell. And actually, you'll hear my clients be like, Ali, what do you think? I'm like, honestly, let's not do it.
And you even do a re-inspection.
Re-inspection,
which
yes,
I
on
think
our
that's
final
really
walkthroughs. Yeah,
important.
because we already know if you speak Spanish, manita de gato, we have to make sure that the seller doesn't do that. Meaning they're not just going to do an easy fix to be able to close out on the home. And I've seen it as well, working with investors. They cut so many corners. And that's why me as a buyer's agent, it has taught me to be very thorough whenever we're negotiating inspections, especially being very specific. Something that's helped me whenever I receive estimates on work that needs to be done, whenever I'm drafting up the Exhibit A, I actually give the seller directions on how we want the work done. Right? Because we can say, yeah, replace the roof, but they could replace the shingles and not replace the boots or the vents on the roof or the rotted decking under the roof, right? Because we weren't specific. We just said replace roof. But what are all the components to the roof? We need to make sure that you're doing X, Y, Z if there's a little bit extra. So being very thorough within negotiating my inspections and also doing those re-inspections for my clients and explaining why, they appreciate it so much more. Because before we would just go walk it, oh yeah, the AC's blowing, it's working, we're fine. Yeah, no, I don't do that. I don't do that anymore. I send an HVAC tech out there to go ahead and inspect the system to ensure that they did the proper repairs.
So now we're at the clear to close stage.
Yes.
And talk to us a little bit about how in your second buyer consult meeting where you are doing a lot of setting expectations, talk us through just a few things that you've gone over
Yes.
that really helps to speed up this process,
Yes.
that keeps your clients from maybe going MIA,
Yeah.
kind of puts, a squash on any drama that could come up. So talk to us a little bit about what has happened in this second consultation where
That
you've
helps.
set expectations. Yes, when it
So-
comes to the clear to close.
So I explained the loan process. Like you mentioned, I explained the difference between the lender and the underwriter. I explained the difference between, I'll explain the lender as an attorney and the underwriters as a judge, and it really puts it into perspective for them. And also explain to them that their lender is going to ask for additional information. And the reason that they're asking for this additional information is because we need it for the clear to close. And I let them know, hey, you've already spent money for inspections. You already spent money for appraisal. You already paid your earnest money. If you don't turn in these documents in a timely manner, that home isn't yours until the underwriters give us that clear to close. And then they're like, so I'm like, so this is going to be as we're transitioning, because I break it up into 4 weeks. Week 1, we do inspections. Week 2, we do appraisal. As we're transitioning from that week 2 to week 3, this is where your file is already in the underwriter's hand, and they're the ones requesting that additional information. So if lender is asking you for any information, the reason that they're doing it so is so that way the bank can give you that clear to close, so that way we can actually make it to the closing table. So it's super important that you turn in your information or any documents that the lender needs from you as soon as possible, so there is no delays, especially for the ones that already put in their notice in their apartments and then they have to be moved out by a specific date. I give that as an example because, for example, if we don't have these information in a timely manner, we have to extend. Where are you going to go? Right? So then it shows them. I teach them how to play as a team. I tell them it's going to take a team. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be involved in your home buying process. Me as your realtor, this is my job. The lender, this is their job. The inspector, this is their job. The title company, this is their job. But I'll tell them we're all going to work together as a team to help you get there. And I give them specific roles on what each person's going to do, so that way they know it doesn't just fall on me, it doesn't just fall on the lender, that it takes a team as a whole. And that's really helped me set the expectations. And my lender will tell you, they're like, your clients never give me any pushback on sending documents. I'm like, yeah, because they know if they don't send the documents, they don't get their home.
Right. And you've also, during kind of this second consult, you've
Yes.
shared with them the numbers are
Yes.
an estimate. And so when we have now, fast forward to the clear close process, you have set that expectation that now the numbers might look a little bit different.
Yeah, so I explained what a closing disclosure is. I explained to them that they're going to receive maybe about 3 or 4 during the process, and the numbers are going to look different on every single one. And I explained why, and then I explained why we won't get the final concrete numbers until we receive the clear to close. I explained the reason why the lender and the title company need to balance numbers, and by usually that time, and I'll tell them just so that way you don't get fixated on 1,520 and it's 1,505, you know. So the good thing is always let them know lender's always going to overestimate, so the numbers could potentially be a little bit lower, but if they're higher, it's not going to be by much, because everybody knows the first closing disclosure looks very scary, and you know it just scares them. But I've already set that expectation that the first one's going to look scary. The numbers are just all over the place, but that's just so that way the lender can start processing your application.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is a perfect time for us. Live streamers, don't go anywhere.
Yes.
What I would love for our live stream audience to do right about now is get your questions ready. We're going to have a bit of time for you to ask Alondra some questions. So if you would use the QR code that you see probably right about now on your screen, and it should pop up into your texting application, and just text us any questions that you would like Alondra to answer. And if for some reason that QR code is not working, then there is a phone number, and just use that number to text in your question. And now what we're going to do is we're going to invite up a 30-year vet in the lending industry.
Yes.
And we're going to have a little mortgage minute. So if you would, please help me welcome to the show, Miss Irma De Leon.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashley. Alondra, I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
You know, you went through some, as you explained, your humble beginnings. You know, you even overheard people saying certain things, and sometimes we let that get into our soul, and it puts doubt in our mind, right? And you didn't do that.
No.
You just, you know, you had that faith, and you just kept forging forward.
Yeah.
And this is why you're sitting here today. So
I know, I still
congratulations.
can't believe it. Thank you.
Yes, congratulations. Let's give her a round of applause. Hi, my name is Irma De Leon, and I have been in the mortgage industry a little over 30 years, and I'm also a proud single mother of 2 amazing sons. Alondra did an amazing job explaining the importance of having a lender partnership, right, where you're working together to get your clients to the closing table. So having, NFL draft yesterday, I want to give it like a little analogy of football. So I don't know if you all realize, but it does take a village to get a loan process. And in that example, what we do is when we have the file, we turn it into our loan processor or loan setup team, and they're going to be the quarterback. So when they look at the file, they analyze it, pre-underwrite it, get their verifications of employment, look at credit, address any credit issues. They then get it over to the underwriter, and the underwriter is going to be the tight end. She's going to be looking at the file, she's going to analyze it as well, validate everything that's been submitted, and then finally get it to and make a touchdown. And with that touchdown, my favorite 3 words is clear to close.
Yes.
So the loan officer is like the coach, and what we're going to do is we're going to see everything, overview, and also create that strategy, right? So we can get that winning, we can have that winning team to get the clients over to the closing table. So if you have any needs and our team can help you out, we're more than happy to do so. Feel free to use the QR code, and let's make it a great day. Also, remember, let's thrive in 2025.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
yay, thank you, Irma. I love that. She always has that great line, thrive in 2025. I love that.
And what she explained is all the public wants to know. Literally, when I started explaining what she just went over, my clients are like, oh, and that's going to prevent them for any reason if they need to work on some things, and if you give them that correct game plan, that they're not going to go to another realtor because they didn't know why they didn't qualify. Because of course they'll know, oh, it's because of my credits and my debts, but we have to explain, hey, loans have loan guidelines. This is what they are pertaining on their different situation, and they're going to be more receptive. Like, okay, she was knowledgeable, she poured into me, I know it wasn't because of her. And I have clients that didn't qualify for a home and they're still working on things, and they send me referrals, and I've been able to close on families that they have sent over to me just because we gave them that, that care and that love that they needed in the beginning.
100%. And it reminds me, again, I just go back to, you giving the analogy of the lender being like the attorney.
Yes.
So I do have to give Irma another shout out because she is an attorney.
Yes.
So you all, if you have questions and you would just like her to walk you through a couple of things, please do use that QR code and the code word SunWest. Okay.
Yeah.
So if the QR code is not opening up for some reason, then you can use the phone number that you see on the screen and just text the code word SunWest, and that lets us know that you would like Irma and her team to give you a call so you can dive into what your specific questions may be. Because as you have shared this entire segment, how important it is to have that lender on your team. And not all lenders are created equal.
No.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at some of the questions that have come in, and I love this part because we just never know what someone's going to ask. So the first question is, this agent would like to
Home. I don't have one. I really don't. I feel like since a lot of my clients see what I give my client, it doesn't matter to me what budget of house. I'll give the same gift to someone who bought a $200,000 home versus someone who bought a $500,000 home, because we're all created equal, right? So that's the way that I see it. They give my same love and care versus if it's just a $200,000 transaction versus a $600,000 transaction. And it's so funny, for one of my clients, I had to decrease my commission on it to be able to get the deal closed. And I remember having a phone call going over everything, and the husband goes, "But we're still getting the Blackstone, right?" And I said, "Yes, you guys are still getting your Blackstone." So honestly, I don't view it in that way of kind of setting a budget. I create all my clients equal, whether if it's $200,000 or $500,000, and they all receive the same things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I love that this agent was brave enough to
But
send
that's
in.
such a good question, because I should set a budget, you know?
So I want to move to this next question, and
Yeah.
shout out to this agent for being so brave to share this with us.
Yes.
And this is so inspiring. She wanted to let you know that she has been following you on social media,
I'm gonna cry.
and you have really inspired her to reactivate her license. So that is super, super exciting. So be sure to DM Alondra. She can absolutely get you connected and coach you up for sure.
Oh, that brings me to my point. Shout out to my team and everybody who's watching. Yes.
So she would like to know how you explain essentially the new law that's come out and how the buy side, right, the buyer's agent is paying their agent.
So I love that. I put my buyer in my shoes and I explain to them what happened. The way that I say it, like, "Hey, I don't know if you're aware, the National Association of Realtors was sued, and this is why it happened." So let's say, for example, you called me to sell your home, and I sat down in front of you and you asked me, "Ali, how much are you going to charge me?" And I told you, "Hey, well, standard is 6%. And I just made you believe that our commissions were non-negotiable, that's what you needed to pay, and that's what everybody charges. I was like, so they weren't educating the public that we can have negotiated that there is no standard percentage, right? So a lot of sellers noticed that was happening. They got together and they sued the Association of Realtors. And part two to that is that before, and I'll show them on my laptop, you see this little spot here. Before, I was able to see how much that seller was willing to cover my compensation for to help them sell their home. Because essentially, remember, listing agent works for the seller and I work strictly for you. And typically that was covered by the seller, or if not, you were able to cover that fee. But that wasn't being disclosed. So then what started part two or started happening to that is that some agents wouldn't go show specific homes because they were making their standard, quote unquote, 3%. And then you kind of see their wheels turning like, oh, so now we went to now we had to give full disclosure stating that I am still going to show your home, and now I have to let you know if the seller isn't willing to pay my compensation. And if they're not, I'll have a conversation with you. This is why we have this agreement that for any reason, if a seller doesn't want to pay me, you're either willing to pay me or pay the difference, or you now have the right to tell me, you know what, if that seller doesn't want to pay you and I don't have the funds to pay you, I don't want to go see that home. And then I can communicate that over to the listing agent. The listing agent could present that to the seller, and the seller said, man, well, I really do need to sell my home. Tell her that I'll pay her what she's asking for, have the buyer come in. And it just creates a win-win for both parties. We're able to give full disclosure of what's happening. And now the ball is in your court that if you don't have the funds to pay me or whatever the situation's going to be, that you're giving me the authorization to not show you that specific home. And then they understand and they're like, oh, okay, so this is what the buyer representation agreement is for. And what I really love to do now, I don't make them sign it in front of me. So I'm like, here, take this home, read it. I want you to understand it. And then once you're ready to sign, or if you have any questions, give me a call. We'll go over those questions and then I'll send it over to you electronically before our first showing. Because it takes the pressure of them of just like, oh, she kind of just made me sign. I'm like, no, take it home, read it. Take your time. If you have any questions, in the meantime, we're sending each other homes or getting ready for our first set of showings, but just know that I do need a sign before we actually go out and start seeing homes. They're like, yeah, great, I'll read it, and I'll let you know once I'm ready to sign.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's move into this question. This is a great question. As we were visiting about inspections and how thorough you are and that you do re-inspections, this agent is wondering how receptive your clients typically are when you share with them, hey, I'm going to be asking for these additional inspections and we're going to do a re-inspection, because that is going to cost them a little extra. So that's a great question.
Yeah, I do get sometimes some pushback because they don't want to pay for it, but the way that I put it into perspective is that if we don't verify that something was done correctly and we just go based off our knowledge, and you move into your home and those things stop working, we can no longer go back to the seller and say, hey, you didn't do this right, because the seller can argue, I fixed it, it was working during your final walkthrough, and you accepted the house and you accepted the repairs. And they're like, oh, because they assume if you come from renting, if our AC breaks down, who do we call? Hey, management, my AC broke down, can you come fix it? If you're renting a house, hey, landlord, this broke down, can you come fix it? We have to teach them you're out of that ball game. Now that falls under your responsibility because that is your home. And I'd rather be diligent and spend those extra $200 now than you moving in and in 2 months you're out thousands of dollars later because you don't want to spend the $200 now. And then they're like, oh, okay, this is actually for my benefit, not just because I have to put more money out of pocket. So I remember getting big pushback from one client. Well, I don't want to pay for it. I'm like, okay, this is a pros, this is a cons. These are the different scenarios that can happen. And he goes, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it. If I wouldn't have sent out a plumber to do a re-inspection, the plumbing company that the seller hired never fixed the main sewer line in the home. So they would have moved in with a broken sewer line. Yeah, and they wanted to take out the verbiage because essentially there was just a clog. So they wanted to, and that's where we had to pay attention to verbiage. They wanted to take out the verbiage on replacing the main sewer line and just put, hey, we're just going to make sure that nothing is clogged and everything's flowing through, because whenever we negotiated the repairs, we didn't know there was a break. We just knew that there was a clog because, again, hence they didn't want to pay for the extra plumbing inspection. So the plumbers, the seller sent us a report stating that everything was fixed, sent us a video of the water flowing through the sewer line. And I'm like, hey, something in my gut is telling me that we need to get a plumbing inspection. But why? They sent us a video, they sent us an invoice that everything's working. I'm like, okay, you don't have to do it, but I don't want this to happen. So then, no, you know what, let's go ahead and do that re-plumbing inspection. And sure enough, we were able to catch that it was broken and the seller replaced the main sewer line.
Well, and I love how you're giving them options.
Yeah, I give them options.
You're giving them options and you're explaining everything to them. And so ultimately at the end of the day,
it's their decision,
but
it's also CYA for me because I gave you 3 options. Below option 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, scenario 4, you pick which one you want. So that way you can say, Ali, you never told me that this could happen. I was like, I gave it all to you. And at the end of the day, and I do lead with that. At the end of the day, it is your decision. I'm just here to let you know what I've experienced and different things that can happen.
Yes. Perfect. Okay, so this question is going back to social media and really those DMs. And this agent is curious, you know, are you having to follow up multiple times once someone reaches out to you? Or is it pretty much once they've reached out to you, you're responding right away and it's typically turning into a conversation? So talk to us a little bit about that.
So 8 times out of 10, whenever someone writes me, they're ready to meet me in person. Other times I do have to follow up, so that's why I always like to, whenever they let me know that they're getting ready to schedule a consultation, I always like grabbing their phone numbers because I get a lot of DMs, and sometimes Instagram is weird that they don't have your DMs in line and the dates that you received them. So I have lost a couple of DMs that way too. So now I get their information and I text them. And then something that I love about Realty of America, they have a great CRM. So I use Close, and it actually reminds me whenever I haven't talked to them. Like it'll say, hey, you haven't spoke to this person in a while. You need to follow up. It goes through all your emails, all of that fun stuff. But 8 times out of 10, since I've been able to build a lot of trust with my client, with my social media, by the time they write me, they're ready to meet me. And the other I would say point of that is, yes, sometimes I do have to follow up about 2 to 3 times, and then they're in my office.
Mm-hmm. All right, perfect. Okay, I'm looking at the time.
Yes.
I can't believe there are so many more questions in here. I can't believe we're already at time. Mm-hmm. So before we wrap up, yes, I do want to go back to a really special moment, mm-hmm, a really, really special moment. So we started at the very beginning talking about how you were 8. Yeah. Your house burned down. Mm-hmm. It turns out that your mom decided to keep that land. Yeah. So she kept that land for all these years, mm-hmm, and you and your husband just finished building your very first spec home, yeah, on that exact piece of property. Yeah. And I can't even imagine how that must feel for you. And I know you all just put it on the market. So I'd love to maybe just kind of wrap up this whole segment, yes, going full circle and talking about what that experience was like for you all, and just the encouragement that you want to give everybody today. Yeah, it's just trust the process, and everything that happens in life happens for a reason. If my house would have never burned down, I wouldn't be building my first spec home. If I would have never gotten pregnant before nursing school, I would have probably been a nurse right now and not a realtor. If my husband would have never got laid off, we would have never been introduced into real estate. Trust the process, focus on your road. And on walking, the moment that I walked in that house and I had a broker's open and I had all my family there, it was just such a surreal moment because, sometimes even being on the stage, sometimes I still feel that I'm not worthy of it, that I still have so much hard work to put in. It was just such a surreal moment whenever I was having my celebration, mega open house, that everything that I worked so hard for, everything that I've been through, all led up to this moment. And actually, I executed a contract on my new construction home this morning. Yes, I love it. You heard it here first on America's Real Estate Show. Off the market, yes. Congratulations. I kind of didn't want to sell it. It was super sad. Now I understand my sellers when they say that they're emotionally attached to their homes. I get it now because, but it's just, the biggest thing that I wish someone would have told me early on is always lead with a good heart. Always have faith that it's going to work. Be knowledgeable. Lead with integrity. I taught this to my team the other day. We talked about integrity and what that meant and how it transpired into everything that you do. It's you showing integrity in your clients is to be knowing what they're signing. Be knowledgeable. Study your craft. There's things that I still don't know. Learn every day. Soak it in as a sponge. Don't worry about who's doing what next door. Focus on you. Figure out what your true why is. Don't let money be your why. Lead with a good heart, and there's no way that you can fail in this business. I love it. Yes. Well, you have a beautiful heart, a beautiful story, and I want to just, again, congratulate you on selling your very first spec home contract this morning. I love how that timing happened, and really remind everybody who's watching and listening today, the game plan and the blueprint that you just laid out, that you've only been doing for a very short period of time, right, has generated over 50 million in volume. So congratulations again on being a top 1% producer in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That is absolutely incredible. Everyone, give Alondra another huge round of applause as we are wrapping up today's show. Thank you so much for being here. So I want to give a shout out to all of our live streamers today. Thank you again for being with us. We are here every single Friday at 11 a.m. Central. The best way to know who the next top producer is coming on the show is to follow us on our Instagram page and our YouTube channel. When you subscribe to our YouTube channel, it's going to automatically alert you when we go live. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram so you always know, you can be in the know, right, of who our next top producer is, who's going to be taking the stage. But next week is very special. We're actually not going to be having a show on Friday because we have something super exciting and special happening here in Chicago. We are going to be covering, I'm going to say it's going to be kind of like, well, it is a red carpet event for the launching of the brand new corporate headquarters of
Realty of America.
Realty of America. So America's Real Estate Show is going to be coming to you live for that special grand opening, and we cannot wait. We're going to be going live on Facebook, so don't miss it. We're going to be there. It's on a Saturday, May the 3rd. So don't tune in on Friday. Tune in May the 3rd, and we will see you there. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.